Hey everyone, it's Monica. Welcome back to Homeschool Voices. In today's video, we're going to talk about negative attitudes. I recently saw a post from a lady on social media, and she had several young kids and a baby, and the oldest ones, who aren't very old, they were 7 and 5, actually 2 sets of twins, so she had 4 of them, and they were being negative, and this has happened to me too. And I think the first thing that you have to look at is what are you doing? Is it reasonable? Because I could guarantee you, for a lot of you, it's not reasonable. You probably have 7-year-olds that you're trying to do 4 hours of schoolwork a day. It's not reasonable. They're little kids and they cannot focus for that long during the day. Even in the schools, like, they're not really doing academic stuff for 4 hours a day. They're doing like a lot of coloring, a lot of recess and eating lunch, and I don't know, singing songs and stuff. They're not really doing academic stuff. So if you're trying to do 4 hours of academic stuff a day that your kids are not interested in, not a good idea. Are you trying to force feed science and history down your 7-year-old's throat? Probably not a good idea. That stuff needs to be super funsy at that age, or not do it at all, or just like go to the library. Every single week when my kids were that age, we went to the library every single week, and we got new history themed picture books and science themed picture books, and of course just storybooks. There is no reason to torture your kids with a science and history curriculum at that age. If you're doing it, you're gonna get some negativity because it's not reasonable. So what would be reasonable for 7 years old? I would say like an hour of schoolwork a day, or less depending on the kid, but they need to learn to read. They need to have practice. So if you are including, I wouldn't include you reading to them in that hour a day. That would be like them reading, and then them doing some basic math with you sitting next to them, and them doing, honestly, probably copy works. If you're not familiar with that, look up Charlotte Mason and copy work. Basically just copying a couple sentences, doing the same sentences for several days in a row till it's practically memorized, and then moving on. So they learn about capitalization and commas and periods and question marks and spelling in a very easy, natural way. You can do a spelling curriculum, but it shouldn't be more than an hour a day. If it's more than an hour a day, you're going to get negativity. And let's also think about the discipline side of things. So in our culture, it has become really popular to not discipline our kids. So if our kids push back on something, we just let them. And another thing, it goes even further in the homeschool world. It's like, well, if they're not super enthusiastic, then they're not ready. So I'm sorry, but if my kid is negative about not going into the street, I don't care, right? So I think it's like when it's really important to you as the parent, it doesn't matter if your kid's like happy about it, like, you're going to do it, right? So for me, teaching them to read is essential, and I absolutely think you should try to make it fun. But if you're failing at that, like I did, you should still try. You should try hard to make it fun. But if you can't, like, just at least do it. And it doesn't mean that they're not capable of learning if they're not enthusiastic. It means that they want to decide what they want to do, and it's probably playing in the mud and not sitting down for 15 minutes learning how to read. And just because they want to turn a 15-minute lesson into an hour lesson is not your fault. And you just have to say, hey, we're going to do this. You need to try to be positive and not lose your temper, and stick to your guns, and say, this is the consequence if you are going to give me a hard time. So you can give me a hard time. Here's the consequence. And then the trick is you have to follow through. And you can't have too many things and too many consequences, or you kind of dilute the power of all of that. So pick your battles, of course. But sometimes there has to be a little bit of discipline, but at the same time, you have to be very reasonable about what you're asking your kids to do and how much time you're asking them to spend. And you should try, if you can, to make it fun. But I'm not saying if you can't make it fun, I'm not saying don't do it. And there are a lot of people who would say that. I don't think that's a great idea. And the last piece of advice I would have if your kids are being negative is you need to employ a little bit of discipline. You need to be reasonable, and then make a list of what's important to you. So like with little kids, I would literally start with like learning to read, getting better at reading, and then maybe next on the list would be counting, then adding and subtracting, and then handwriting. Maybe you would put handwriting before the counting. It's up to you. And then maybe copy work, right? And I would make a list and I would literally put it in order of importance. And I would start with your oldest kid and I would like pick the first thing on the list and just get a handle on that, right? I am an advocate of starting early. Like I really would start reading at 3 or 4. I know a lot of people think I'm crazy. I just think it works really well. But look, if your kids are 7, you got to start somewhere, right? So start with those 7-year-olds, like with this lady. Start with those 7-year-olds. Do the reading and get that under control, right? And then maybe you'll go to the next thing on the list with the 7-year-olds, or maybe you'll go to the 5-year-olds and do the reading. You know, it just depends on you and your kids and everything. But just do one thing at a time. Wrap your brain around it, get it under control, you know, get a system going, and then work on the next thing. So I hope that helps. If you like this video, please click thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. If you have anything to add to the conversation, please do so in the comments below. In the meantime, happy homeschooling and have a great day.